Here we are back with Defenders of Light. I'm currently on the field map, otherwise known as the map of Xi'an Prime. In the last episode we finished off Strangeland and we found jewels. Right now we have Leo, Alice, Keisha, and Poncho available to us as playable characters. We've learned a few abilities here. Builder Bob, which allows us to build bridges. Kitty Gas Magic, which is magic that can be used in battle by Keisha. And I went ahead and turned the battles on. We'll go see what those look like now. Again, there's Power Smash, which Leo can use to destroy blue blocks. His Thunderclap magic. USS Bodhi is Alice's ability to cross over water. Super Pounce, Keisha can leap across large gaps. Those gaps will have like boxes in front of them. And then there's Mini Might, which allows Alice to change to little Mini Might to go into small spaces. Her magic, which is Kiss of Death magic, and Warp Ship, which is something that's only available on the map, and that basically allows us to warp to different areas of the game. Go ahead and warp to Forestland. I don't need to go here quite yet, because I want to open up another area here, now that I have Builder Bob ability. Now that I'm in battle, I can fight this monster the same as before. I can choose to run away, or I can use my magic. And I lost a life point. If I use my magic, it instantly destroys the enemy. The idea is that once you have the magic for each character, theoretically the player would just use that in battle from now on instead of fighting or running away, because they're guaranteed to win the battle. This is the entrance to Winter Wonderland. We need 375 lights to get in there, and we're not even close right now at 145. I'm going to go ahead and go to Forestland. Thus far, this will be the first level that we've entered that we didn't need to really save anybody. Forestland is, of course, supposed to be in a forest. In the background there's lots of trees, water, different things that would be related to being in a forest. This is one of the enemies that you fight, is a living tree. Go ahead and destroy him. Now that battles are back on, it's kind of important to pay attention to which character I'm playing as, because some of the characters right now don't have the magic for battle. For example, Poncho doesn't have his in-battle magic yet, and he doesn't learn it for quite some time. He actually doesn't learn it till pretty close to the end of the game. There's a monkey. If you're walking around as Poncho and you get into a battle, you won't have the magic to use. That's supposed to be the kind of difficulty. Right now I can't go down here yet. That's a flashing special object. Can't get rid of it from checking it from this direction. It has to be from the bottom, which is blocked by a tree. Something is up with that. We won't see the results of that until much, much later. Over on the left there is supposed to be a waterfall. The thing about the battle is I can destroy the enemy right away. I can still run or fight if I choose to. Go ahead and use Builder Bob. Now there's a bridge across the waterfall. Over there looks like a place where Mini Might can be used. Poncho doesn't have any abilities. Keisha has Super Pounce. We need to be Alice. Now I'll get a chance to show off her magic, which is Kiss of Death. Laughing Skull destroys the enemy. Thinking back on the design of this level, I like the design of the level. If I had to redesign it, or if I wanted to redesign it, I would probably move Alice's ability to somewhere else on the level to kind of spread it out a bit so that you would have to pick a different character. Use their ability. Right now the way it's set up, unfortunately you can kind of just cycle through each character. Basically you can start off as Leo, do what he needs to do, and then change to Alice, do what she needs to do, Keisha, and Poncho and Jules, and so on. For the most part you can do that on every level. There is some replay value in that when you go back to the level, once you've used the ability of the character, basically at that point you change back to characters like Alice and Keisha, because their abilities, you have to use them all the time, whereas Leo's ability and Poncho's ability, pretty much a one-time deal. Once you do them, they create permanent structures, like the block is always out of the way, the bridge is always created. After I get this next ability, you'll see what I mean. 150 lights, Lasso Whip ability. Lasso Whip, crossover gaps with rope. If we remember, Jules was telling us about a rope that used to be where he was at. A hint for us to go back and use this ability there, because now we'll be able to cross over that gap with the rope Poncho can now create. Poncho's a dude. Supposed to be wearing, supposed to look like a poncho, hence his name. Never knew if that came across, but just like rich and brown clothes. Actually he's supposed to be a guy with gray hair wearing a poncho. That flashing special object, we can move out of the way now. At this point we have the option of going down here, creating a rope bridge. And I can face this boss now, or I can face this boss later. I'm actually gonna choose to forego the boss for now and come back. Now I could do it out of order if I want, and at the very end of the game when it's showing the screenshots, it would have shown that particular cutscene first. Here's an example of in battle where Poncho doesn't have his ability to use magic, but can only run or attack. I'm trying to run away right now. Running is generally more prone to take place than hitting the monster and destroying it, because when you go to attack the enemy, it'll check whether you've hit the enemy or missed the enemy. It'll cycle through this until it gets a result. So either you hit the enemy, or you miss the enemy, or you destroy the enemy. If you hit the enemy, then nothing really happens because the monster isn't destroyed. If you miss the enemy, the monster is still there. Basically you're always hoping for it to go to the option of destroying the enemy. Since that's random chance, you can't count on it always happening. You could get caught in a cycle where you're always losing and you lose in every battle. Fortunately, the way I set it up, it kind of double checks it. It creates a weird sort of programming loop that prevents it from doing anything really silly, like always destroying you or always allowing you to destroy the enemy. Since we can't go into Winter Wonderland right now, and Forestland is open, we can go back to Strangeland. We'll be able to set Jules free now. And now we can see that our ability can be used over there. It tells us that there was a rope there and now there isn't a rope anymore. But go ahead, use Lasso Whip ability now. This is one of the enemies that you can possibly face in Strangeland, the giant eyeball. You can also be attacked by money, something that's giant and brown. I won't say what it is or what it's supposed to be, but it's kind of supposed to be left up to the player's imagination as to what it is. I have my own idea of what it is, to leave that a mystery. Go ahead and create this rope bridge. Now it's always there. This boss apparently isn't for me. This boss is for Leo. Can't get over there right now. I have to change to Leo. There's the pile of money. In this case, I actually destroyed it right away. That means it picked the option to destroy it immediately rather than me missing it or just hitting it and it not being destroyed. Because you don't actually cause damage at all. There's no hit points. It's just you either destroy it or quote-unquote hurt it, or you miss it. Now that we're Leo, we have the magic thunderclap back. We'll go ahead and face the boss for Strangeland. Keep in mind that this is Strangeland. The boss is supposed to be strange. It's kind of referencing a lot of different sources. In this case, this is Unchiro-san, which is kind of a play on a name that you would give to your firstborn, which would be Ichiro. It's supposed to be basically saying Mr. First Pooh, or Mr. Pooh. That's basically what he's supposed to be. It's not really supposed to make any sense whatsoever, and that giant black hole in the background leads to somewhere. I would say outside. Right now you are inside. These first eyeballs here, I'll actually let them come down. I can't destroy them. If I were to touch them, they would force me to go back to the beginning of the stage. I have to lure them over here so that they get out of my way. I designed this level basically to make it so that the eyeballs have enough time to leave you with one space if you do it quickly enough. I'll give an example of going through it very quickly. I should have enough time to escape underneath them and be able to get past them so that I don't have to lure them anywhere. See, that length of chain there is where they slowly move down towards the end. That's basically how I created a sort of timer. You can lure them out of the way that you can get past them, and then this next eyeball is supposed to be a trick. You're not supposed to know that you can destroy it, but you can actually destroy it. Destroy this brown rock, this pile of bricks. Finally get to Unchiro-san. Destroy these logs. Destroy these little pellets. And then finally this is the weak point of Unchiro-san, and you just hit it. It's supposed to be kind of cartoony, like in those mysterious gray poos that you see out in parks and stuff, and I never knew where they really came from, if it was just fossilized or if it had been there for a really long time. I don't really know or care, but in this case, once you destroy Unchiro-san, he turns from his fresh self into this gray matter, and his eyeballs fall down, and you get 15 likes. Beforehand, I had it set up so that you could be whoever you wanted to save jewels. There's that enemy I was talking about. Like I was saying, at this point I can be whoever I want to save Jules, but what would happen before is if I were to go and save Jules now as Poncho, it would create a game-breaking glitch because it would actually trigger the cutscene for a different boss. That was a problem. Long story short, I ended up finding it at the very last moment after I'd already released it for the 10th anniversary. That really bugged me. I went and got rid of it. Basically now what happens when you go here is it flips on the switch. It's not so important that it checks who I am right now. It doesn't care who I am, it only cares that that switch is on. It'll turn on the switch, which I think is 447. It'll say this is the point where I've rescued Jules instead of the other point in time. I'm gonna actually save Jules as Alice. Or Keisha, rather. At this point it doesn't really matter who I am. That's good because that's the way that I wanted it. I didn't want it to matter who you are to save the character. Strangeland is somehow different. The last defender is free. Now it is time for me to act. If the glitch had occurred, it would have come back here. I think Jules would have still said, "Thank you ever so much. I feared I would be stuck here forever." Calling me in the character select menu whenever you need my help. Chime. That was the point where it was taking the screenshot just before he takes off there. If I had defeated the other boss, that screenshot would have been taking place before this one. Right now, the continuity of the screenshots in the very, very, very end of the game will be preserved when we get to that point. And that's very far in the future right now. But we have an opportunity to use the kitty gas magic, which instantly destroys the enemy. Now that we've saved Jules, we've got all the defenders of light in the game. We don't need to save anybody else at this point. It's just a matter of gaining abilities and accessing the different levels. From Strangeland, we get to go back to Grassland. We'll be able to open up some new areas. At this point, Poncho has his lasso whip ability. We can go ahead and use that here. Because before we weren't able to do this. And now we have access to this, which will be Towerland. And over here is another gold chest, which is locked right now. The only way to get into Towerland is to change to Alice. One of the things when I went back and updated this game that I noticed is that certain characters ended up having a lot more usefulness. For example, the most useful characters in the entire game are Alice, Keisha, and Jules, because their abilities are used the most frequently and become the most vital towards finishing the game, whereas Leo and Poncho, yes, they can create things that allow you to access different parts of the level, but once you do that, you never need to use them again. They become very unuseful very, very quickly. In making the second one, I wanted to make each character equally valuable towards completing the goal and make switching up the characters more vital in completing the game. And there I wasn't really paying attention, so it should actually be Alice. Get to use Mini Might ability and go into the tower here. There was a point in time where the only way to get to this level would be to enter it as Alice. And the reason was, once you go into Towerland, the very first thing that you came across was having to use her ability. We need 215 lights. And we have 186. When you go into Towerland, the first thing that you need to do is use the USS Bodhi ability. Before, you absolutely had to be Alice in order to enter the level. I added the character select menu, an extra one specifically for Towerland, and I put it right at the beginning so that people could change the character that you were, and that made it a lot more open-ended. At this point, might need to be doing a little bit of cleanup, and what I mean by that is going back to levels that we've already completed and grabbing light that we can now access with the new abilities. Only have about a minute left here. The best advice I can give for someone who's playing this would be to always start at Grassland and work from Grassland to Homeland, Strangeland, Rockland, Forestland, Winter Wonderland, Towerland, Lavaland, and then eventually the other lands that you find here that I won't spoil the surprise for. Basically work each level in the order that you originally went to the level at. The first level that you went to, being Grassland, would be the level that you would always return to clear out all the lights that you missed. At least that's best practices. That's how I generally do it, or how people generally play through it. But this game is supposed to be open-ended and allow you to play in whichever way that you want. I don't think we can go to Rockland just yet. And with 30 seconds left, I'm going to end the video here, and we'll pick it up next time in Grassland.